hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Wednesday edition. It is Humpday's Eve of the Paranormal Portal. I am Brent Thomas. I'm thrilled to be here with you, and I hope you guys are ready because it's time to roll. All right, guys, this is the Wednesday edition, the Humpday's Eve edition of the Paranormal Portal, and I hope your week's going good. It's been incredibly busy around here. I know not only for myself, but in saying that, I just want you to know I'm not all alone here. I got my good friend and co-host sitting right next to me here, Mr. Don Longbeard. Oh. No, I did have you unmuted. I did have you unmuted this time. I was like, oh,
that's awesome.
It's not even nice.
It's not nice. Is this working? Is this thing working? No.
Yeah, it was, kind of.
Okay, hold on. Now it is. Hi.
Hello.
Let me fix that camera a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Down, a little over.
There you go.
There we go. Oh, look, there's that fat guy.
Oh, are you talking about me again, you
No,
bastard?
no.
I'm just snuggly. That's all there is to it. I'm not fat. I'm snuggly. And honestly, ladies and gentlemen, I'm like coiled steel up in here. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, baby.
It's just all packaged, ready to go.
Brent, the man of steel.
Yeah, or, you know.
Or what?
What? No, that's not what I said.
Pardon me?
Pardon me?
Welcome to Humpday's Eve, everyone.
This is the Paranormal Mayhem edition of the Paranormal Portal, and this is basically a freeform edition where Don and I just discuss all kinds of stuff. It's just part of what we love to do, and we love to have this dialogue with all of you. And to let you know, the call-in boards are open. Well, it's actually just one board, but, you know, it sounds cooler if I say boards. But it's one call board that's open. But if you want to call in and share something of your own with the show, you're very welcome to do that. We'd love to hear from you. The phone number is 720-923-0500. Again, 720-923-0500. And we'd love to hear from you. So the number is actually up on your screen right up there. See that? I'm pointing right at it. It's still too small. I got to blow it up. And I always have the best of intentions of doing that. But so far, I haven't. So,
well, you know, it's one of those things we have to tweak, you know.
It is. And we're all about tweaking here on the show. No, we're not. We're not a bunch of... We're not a... It just came out.
So much of our show.
I know. It's just, this is why we call it Paranormal Mayhem. So, Don, how you doing?
Doing good. It's been a long day. I had some things I really wanted to get done, but there was something more important I had to do. In memory of what I did today, we named it Clusters of Paranormal Mayhem.
Yeah, because today was definitely full of clusters.
Oh, it was a cluster, that's for sure. Yeah, it was for sure.
Well, good. And I'm glad your day went okay and everything came together.
Yeah, everything was fine, But, now I've got other things to do, like, finding, stuff that we talked about. Anyhow.
Right. No, I understand. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we got a bunch of things in the works. We're really excited about. It's nothing we can actually tell you about just quite yet, but when we announce it, I think you'll agree that it's some really cool stuff. Yeah. Now, I do need to let you guys know, I kind of teased about a special guest coming on potentially this Friday. However, they've had to reschedule, so that won't be happening this Friday. However, I will be here. And, oh, God, I thought your hand was huge all of a sudden.
Well, my hands are huge. Or so she said.
Your ego is not far behind.
Yeah. The ego is actually the truth of the matter.
Yeah, I understand. My eye is still bugging me.
Oh, no, that's terrible.
I think it's getting better, though. That lump is going down.
Well, I tell you what, if you take your finger out of it, it might help.
Well, that's the only thing that helps. Actually, it's kind of rubbing the damn thing, but It's like I have this perpetual glaze over my right eye, and it's really weird. But it is getting better. I've been putting like ointment on it and stuff, and it seems to be helping. So, just in case you all were interested in my well-being, I'm just throwing it out there.
We're always interested in well-being. We're worried when you're sick. When Don has the helm, people get scared.
Oh, well, there'll probably be some times coming up where Don will need to take the helm.
Uh-oh.
Because, I'm just saying, I got to get out and,
You know how long it took me to get my driver's license? You want me to drive this beast?
Well, once you push a few buttons, it's all on autopilot, I think.
I push buttons all day long, pal. That's what I do.
Yeah, I know. No, I'm just kidding.
Julia says prayers for your eyeball, Brent.
Oh, it's actually fine. Actually what I think it is I think I got a plugged tear duct, and it just got puffy and has been bugging me. But it is smaller today than it was yesterday, so it's like before it felt like a freaking softball in my face. But
oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, Nelly, you're right. Put a hot rag on it.
I did that.
How about a tea bag? No, seriously. Oh, no. That's not what
hell
I meant.
No.
Here, come here, Brent. Let me help.
You don't make that much money, Don.
I could if I did that enough. Maybe not. The ego is the true size of it.
Oh, no.
No, using a freshly used tea bag on your eye,
No, I've heard that as well. No, I haven't done that. It just hit me wrong. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I don't sleep well.
Neither of us do.
And so that's why you get this version of the Paranormal Portal.
This is why it's called Humpday.
This is why it's called a cluster of paranormal mayhem.
Mayhem. Oh, no.
Oh, Julia. It's possible, Sarah, but it does feel like it's getting better. I'm using an antibiotic ointment on it right now, and it seems to be helping. But thank you, I appreciate that. So I'm just looking at some of the chats. That's really sweet, though. People praying for my eyeball. Thank you, Julia. That's very sweet. Hope your eye. Screw the rest of you. I hope your eye's okay, though.
You got to be able to see to push the buttons.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's hard to launch the USS Paranormal Portal without 20/20 vision. But
oh no,
no, I think we're good. It's going good, and
it is mostly a family show. Just to put that out there. So
there might be some adult references here and there, but we try to keep them clean.
Kind of veiled, behind the veil.
Yeah.
Oh no,
behind the veil, but that's a whole nother show.
Oh no.
See what I did there?
I'm telling Chris.
No, you won't. You won't tell on me.
You're making me cough.
I think you're doing just fine on your own.
I was fine until you hit the go button.
I know, but then that's when the magic starts down. That's like the lighting the fuse on the firework. That theme song hits, and it's like
stick of the dynamite.
right?
It's like hot potato.
Yeah, I know.
Miami.
All right, so we're gonna do just a show about a lot of stuff tonight, and hopefully have a good time doing it. And I hope you guys will have a good time being a part of it. Mostly done like Eric Carmen says.
Oh, God.
Mostly.
There's no...
Hi, you guys.
Hi, you guys.
Nah, Kenny, that's my papa.
Sorry. I just had to go into a little Cartman. I haven't seen that show forever either, by the way.
Pam says, gives a whole new meaning to bags under your eyes.
You're not helping, Pam. We're trying to move on here. Pam's
Thank
like,
you, Pam.
Pam's like, no, you don't. Get back here.
She's stuck on that. She's stuck on that tea thing. Oh, no.
It's like, what? You just said put a tea bag on your eye, and I was like, nope.
Nope. Not doing it.
But I do think that is probably a good advice, and I'm sure it would probably have helped. I did the hot compress, and I did a lot of that. So, but like I said, it's getting better. Julie's trying to change the subject.
She's trying to
do it. Lines are open. Lines are
Get
open.
us
Hurry.
back in line here. Quick call before they start talking more.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God!
Wow.
You just never know what you're going to get, but you know what? You get what you paid for, ladies and gentlemen. And so far, this is mostly free.
We love you all. We love you all so much. I think it's time for quick shout-outs.
Oh, please. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Starting at the top, alphabetical order, we've got Mr. or Mrs. Let's just say that. Aussie Tiger Rock Fam. We got Bigfoot Michigan Rob. We got Black Tree Brian. Gaska's here with us. Mr. Duke Sullivan. Gemini Moon. Hacker. Jim Mounts here. Kenneth Christian. Lewis is here. Mind Over Matter. And nice to see both of you. Nellie Moen. Pam. How do you pronounce that? Paranormal Portal. Okay, that's cool. Quico Reed. We got Sarah in the house, Zero Mind, and that guy down at the bottom in the blue.
That what guy is that?
You're supposed to say that guy down at the bottom would be you.
Oh, okay.
Thanks.
Sorry, I didn't get the memo.
Oh, well, see, you're looking at...
Now look at my list. Look at my list. How little this is.
Wow, yeah, and that's...
See, I don't think that damn thing works.
Shadows of the Moon. That's a new one to me.
Shadows of the Moon.
Yeah.
Quico Reed is here.
New name. Yeah.
Pam Edgerton. Did you say Pam?
Yep.
Okay. Gemini, you said.
Yep.
Aussie Tiger Rock Fam. Yeah. There's some more. You see, that's the thing. These damn lists aren't comprehensive at all. So mine is way different than yours.
Yeah, I hit mine early, so I had like a quick shot of the first people who said anything. So I don't know if that makes a difference or not.
I think it does. But then I do this pop-out chat too, so maybe that really screws mine up. Maybe it doesn't.
Nellie says it's okay because you're only seeing out of one eye, which means you're only seeing half of one eye.
Well, you know what's funny? Okay, so here's the thing.
This whole damn thing.
I am the kid from the Christmas Story. I mean, honest to God, I was shot in the eye with a BB gun when I was 12 years old, and it went right in, and I have absolutely no peripheral vision in my right eye, so it's like this blackness over here. Anyway,
so if you ever see me going like this, trying to get his attention, he doesn't see me.
It won't happen.
I got
anything over here is gone. It's a black void.
Dawn is gone.
So I don't see anything until I get about right here, and then until the rest. So I really have kind of a tunnel vision, but it happened when I was 12. So it's like I'm totally used to it, and I don't know what it would be like to have the full vision anyway. Because I was really pretty young when it happened.
Right.
But, I'm the kid your parents warned you about with the BB guns. It was me. Yeah, so, but yeah, it totally tore up the side of my eye.
Sorry. Shout out to Miss Deb.
Hi, Deb.
Nice to see you, babe.
What about Deb? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
Sarah, what about Deb? Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, there you go. So, but yeah, we're going to get into some paranormal stuff actually tonight too.
At some point.
This show's called Paranormal Portal, and we talk about everything else. So I was looking at my car today, Don.
Really? Was it the paranormal pickup?
Yeah, no. I got the paranormal Jaguar parked out back that needs a fuel pump. Damn things. All right. So, all right, let's get into some of this stuff.
That's what happens when you buy something from the UK.
Well, this was during the years it was owned by Ford, so
Oh, okay.
so it was still an American car.
Now, if you break it down into the acronym.
Ooh. First on race day? Is that the one you're talking about?
Nah. Nah.
All right. Hater. All right.
Oh, Gemini says she'll donate her tea bag. She's making some tea.
This is just never going away. I don't think this whole episode, but somehow tea bags are going to be brought up over and over. And ever since I started doing this show,
Oh, goodness.
it was like a competition in the chat room to try to throw me off my game, and I finally just gave up and I just go with it now. I'd be trying to do a serious paranormal show, and people be throwing up memes of all kinds of stupid crap on my screen. I'm like, no, and then every once in a while I'll just fold up laughing. It's like, no, I couldn't hold it together.
That's nice. Tea bags and black-eyed beans.
There was a time when King.
Oh yeah. He posted that thing.
Ken accidentally threw up a nude.
That was awesome. That was freaking awesome. Speaking of Ken, I don't see him. Ken, are you here?
I hope he's here. Found on rubbish dump. What the hell, Aussie Tiger?
Well, you can tell they're from Aussie.
Well, I guess they're not very loved down there either. I don't know if Ken's here or not, but I hope he makes it in.
Definitely.
He's been a long time. I mean, he was, honest to God, he and Lewis and a few others were there from day one when I did the portal. So they are long-standing friends and family.
Really was there.
We always want a story. Oh, so you want us to give you a story, Quico, or do you got one to share?
We'll call in.
Call in if you got one to share. We'd love to hear it.
720-923-0500.
We would love to hear it. Any of you guys have stories and stuff to share, I'd love to hear them. So, hold on. Had a sniffle.
Anyway.
So I was going to talk a little bit, and help me keep an eye on. Oh, there it is. Wow, that was really quick.
Well, there you go.
All right, and this is area code 720. You are on the air.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing really good. Just became a recent fan of your show. Can't remember where I heard about you guys, but I've been enjoying it. I appreciate that you guys do daily shows. That's awesome.
Excellent.
Oh, thank you, brother. I'm glad you're here. Thanks so much. So what's going on tonight?
All right, I do have a good story for you. Wasn't sure when to call in because I didn't want to interrupt all of your other fun that you were having. But
please get us on, get us going in a direction. We're good.
Thought I'd try and get you back on paranormal. So this is a true story that happened to me a few years back. I noticed that you have a 720 number. That's a Colorado number, isn't it?
It must be. I don't know. It's just from
it's part of a trunk line that we have. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's part of
all right. Well,
network.
You'll notice mine's also a 720.
I did.
I'm from Colorado.
Okay. Gotcha.
And so a number of years back, I was actually I do a lot of hunting up in Gilpin County, Grand County, and I don't know if you're familiar with Colorado very much, but there's a whole bunch of old, what we call ghost towns out there. There were former mining towns all over the mountains. Okay. And pretty much everywhere you go in the hills up there, you'll find places where they started mines or they were, doing soil samples and that kind of stuff. Everywhere you go, it's just absolutely everywhere.
Okay.
So the place that I used to hunt was, are you familiar with the Denver area, Colorado?
I've been to Denver, yeah. So I'm a little bit familiar with that, yeah.
So if you took I-70 and you head west and you go up through Golden, go up into the mountains, and you'll go up by Idaho Springs, which is one of the older communities, and it's still being mined.
Oh, okay.
And right behind that, very few people who, tourists and stuff won't know, but right behind that town is an area that used to be called Empire City. Okay. And it's just one of the great ironies out west is that these miners went out and created little tiny mining cities and gave them really epic names like Atlantic City and Empire City or whatever, but they were basically just little tiny mining communities.
Okay.
And so I used to go out in usually first and second rifle, which would be late October or early to mid-November, depending on the season. And I like to go out by myself. Usually I'd pack in a small bicycle tent, sleeping bag, cot, and my rifle and stuff. And I'd hike in several miles to where there was the old Empire City area.
Mm-hmm.
And that area, when you're hunting in that area, there's usually, you can get in here and walk around and you'll find all these collapsed cabins and places where the miners had been for years. So I went in there on a beautiful snowy weekend, hiked all day long. I figured out there was just nobody in my area. The nearest hunters were about 2.5 miles away. And I was camped down in what was really close to the remains of Empire City itself, where there's some cabins and stuff.
Oh, okay.
But there was absolutely nobody around me. So after a long day of hunting and about 8 inches of snow, a small storm blew in and it started snowing. So I went to bed, fairly early. I was pretty exhausted, and you have to kind of set the scene. You're up in the mountains, dense forest, barely a breeze.
Wow.
The snow is coming down in just a light fall. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you guys are up north, right? You're like in Idaho, is that right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the very north of Idaho. Yep.
So you know how it is when you have a pretty heavy snow that's falling, but there's no wind, but that snow still has a tendency to dampen any kind of noise. So noise just doesn't carry in those kinds of conditions, right?
Right, exactly. Yep.
So that's going to be important here in a second. So I get into my sleeping bag, kind of cuddle up, start drifting off to sleep, and then my ear picks up on a sound, and I sit there and I tune into it, and I think, it must be a coyote. It sounds like a voice, but it's kind of distant. And I'm thinking, it must be a coyote or something. And then all of a sudden I realize, no, that's a woman, and she's singing. That's a woman's voice, and she's singing.
Wow.
And so I'm sitting here listening, and it sounds a little bit like it has the rhythm and the melody of like old 1800s or 1900s camp sounds, almost like, camp, da 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 da, that kind of a melody.
Sure.
And I could pick out a really clear note, and then I would hear that she would miss a note, and all of a sudden I realized there were men's voices laughing with her.
Oh.
And then they would get quiet for a minute, and then she would start singing again, almost an operatic style of voice, and then she would miss a note, and you'd hear some laughter and a little bit of conversation, and it would get quiet. This went on for well over 2 hours. And at first it scared me to death. I was sitting there going, there is nobody within 2 or 3 miles of me. Right. There's no human anywhere near me. Mm-hmm. And with the snow, there's no way I'm picking up on, distant sounds from 1 mile or 2 miles away either. Right. There's no way that I was getting any sound. So I sat there and thought about it for hours. And finally I decided, the only thing I can think of is that these are the ghosts of some old miners, and they're reliving some sort of party that they must have had. It sounds like they're drinking and gambling and singing, and so they're having a good time, so they're not, any danger to me. So I finally drifted off to sleep. Mm-hmm. Got up the next morning. It had been a fairly long weekend, and I hadn't had any luck, and I decided, I'm just going to pack up. I'll head home, and I'll come back up another weekend. So I packed everything up, drove home. Got home that afternoon, I had a couple of young kids. They were probably 7 and 9 at the time. Mm-hmm. And got home, anyway, we had dinner and all that kind of stuff. We put the kids to bed in their room. They had a bunk bed in their room. And then I went down the hall into the bedroom where my wife was, and I started to tell her the story I just told you about, in a quiet voice, because the kids were in bed trying to go to sleep. And I told her the story I just told you. I said, it was the weirdest thing. I could have sworn that I could hear what sounded like, people partying and singing and laughing inside that ghost town, and there was nobody there. And she just kind of looked at me and said, that is really weird. And all of a sudden, my daughter goes, Daddy, Daddy. And I said, what is it? She goes, come here. And I got up and I ran down the hall real quick. And I came in and flipped on the light, and she's sitting up. And I said, what is it, baby? And she goes, Daddy, there were 3 minors in my room.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
I said, what? She says, Daddy, there were 3 men in my room. And I said, why do you say that there were minors? She says, well, you could tell because they were dressed like old time kind of stuff, like they were workers, and they were really dirty. One of them looked like he had a broken back, and he was laying on the floor. In fact, you stepped right on his head when you came in. And then he vanished when you stepped on him. And the other 2 were leaned up against the wall, and one of them had like a shovel or a pick or something.
Oh my
God. And then they vanished when you came in.
Wow.
My wife and I looked at each other. Now, I had never told my kids that I was in a mining town. They had no idea where I had been hunting.
Wow.
That is
so there's no way they could have picked up on any kind of, and I never told them the story about what happened because I didn't want to scare them.
Sure.
Now, you tell me, what was that all about?
Something that followed you home.
Right. Yeah,
Well,
barely.
that's what my wife said. You know, she said, listen, I think maybe you shouldn't go hunting there anymore. You brought something back to the house.
Oh, wow.
Right. Well, now normally a lot of those cases like that, when things do trail people home, paranormal investigators run into that stuff all the time, and they say that generally, after a week or 2, that activity will just fade, and they'll return to wherever it was that they were kind of stuck. But
Yeah, they're just coming to check you out.
right. But yeah, did it eventually? Did anything else ever happen with this, or was it a one-off kind of deal?
We never had any issue with them. Those miners apparently came, they visited, they left.
Okay.
But what's really strange is that it appears to have started something with my daughter after that.
Oh.
She had never had any kind of incident where she reported seeing ghosts of any kind.
Ah.
But interestingly enough, her grandmother, her maternal grandmother, is a bit of a psychic and has a whole bunch, and a medium sort of. She doesn't claim to be a medium, but she must be a sensitive because she has seen many spirits and has had some very interesting psychic experiences. And so, that could have something to do with my daughter's potential sensibility or openness to this. But after that incident, she began to show different types of signs of things starting to happen. She woke up one morning and reported to my wife that she'd had this dream about a neighbor of ours, a guy that lived in the apartment building across from ours there in the mountains, and that he had been very sad and asking for help or something like that, or that he had died or something. I don't remember the exact story that she told. So we knew that he was just fine. He lived across the building from us, and so we didn't really worry about it. But it wasn't long after that I woke up and saw ambulances and stuff outside the house at like 2:00 in the morning. And I could see the family coming out. They carried a body out of the house on a gurney. And the family got into a car and followed the ambulance out. And we thought, what in the world happened? Well, the next day we found out that he had committed suicide that night.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
So, that was the beginning of, something weird is starting to happen, right? And a number of years later, we moved to Kansas. And once again, she got visited. She yelled out to me the same kind of thing, Daddy, come here. And I went over there and she said, Daddy, a girl was in my room just now. And I said, what do you mean a girl? She goes, yeah, Dad, there was a spirit of a girl in my room, and half of her face was very bloody.
Wow.
I think she was in an accident or something.
Accident, yeah.
So after that incident, she did start to have some strange visitations. So.
That's pretty cool. But I don't mean cool in that, it's got to be concerning being a parent knowing that your child is dealing with this stuff. But the really cool part is that you're able to have a dialogue with her.
Right.
So often we hear these stories of these children. I tried to talk to my parents, but they thought I was making it up or had a overactive imagination and just basically discarding it and giving these kids nowhere to go. But she's got you, and I'm sure your wife as well, which is really, really important to help her process this and to come to terms with it. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're open-minded for it.
Well, I've never had any, other than that experience there of hearing the voices in the mountains. I've never had any paranormal types of experiences,
Right.
but I mean, the situation was so strange in that I knew where I had been. I knew it was a ghost town. I knew what I had heard.
Mm-hmm.
And so when she first told me what she saw, and there's no way she could have known, you know, that's one of those things where you sort of, how do you reason that away? Right. And afterward, and then when the kid ends up, you know, our neighbor, she had a dream about him and he ends up killing himself. Again, those are undeniable connections between what she said she saw and what actually happened. So it makes it a little bit easier to not just write it off as a parent and say, oh, okay, it was a bad dream or something like that. So I understand when there are parents who have a hard time separating out between what was just a bad dream and what was a paranormal experience, but
right, yeah, you know, and I understand those parents that are trying to soothe their child and, oh no, it's just your imagination, but I think that effectively that can really damage them in their ability to talk about it because it's, you know, discarded. But now is this over a long period of time, or is this all pretty recent? Is your daughter grown much since this started, or is this?
Oh, yeah, how long ago?
Oh yeah, now so she was about 9 when it happened, and she's 18 now.
Okay.
And she hasn't had too many experiences lately. You know, nothing in the last 4 years or 5 years. So she may have outgrown it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, you know, you never can tell.
Yeah,
you never can tell what's going to happen.
That's what I was curious about, is if she had perhaps outgrown it, because we hear about that a lot too. And I think that's personally, I think that's kind of a tragic thing when they outgrow that, and because I think that those are, as hard as it is to process at a younger age, I think it can be turned into really powerful gifts that can be used to help a lot of people. And I think by and large, I think the public is more open to that kind of stuff now, and you know, that can be a real asset. So I hope she didn't lose the abilities, but that's just probably my prejudice coming into it, to be honest with you. Maybe as a parent, you want them to get past.
I'm just grateful. I'm sorry.
I said maybe as a parent, you just want them to get past that, but I don't know how you feel.
Well, I think I'm just grateful that she wasn't tormented by it, because you know, you also hear about people who, you know, everywhere they look, they say dead people, and dead people come and wake them at night. You know, they can be a little bit selfish, right? Then they start wanting their attention all the time, according to some people. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad it didn't turn into that. We were a little concerned that it might be one of those situations where she can't turn it off and protect herself, but it never became much of an issue.
That's really cool. And honestly, I think you're doing it right.
Right.
You're you know, giving her a place, you're giving her a dialogue, and she's older now, so I'm sure she's probably handling it much better than she did as a child, but very, very cool. And you know, if she's interested in talking to somebody about this, we have several psychics that are involved in the show, and I know they would be more than happy to, if she has any questions, or if she would like to have an ongoing dialogue and perhaps be mentored by someone. I don't know. You know, I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not trying to impress this.
Well, I'll ask her. I'll ask her if she'd be interested in talking to them. Like I said, you know, I mean, my mother-in-law can tell, you know, she doesn't speak much English. She's from Venezuela, but she can tell some amazing stories about things that she had. And some of them are just really bizarre. Like, she went to a relative's house when she was a little girl, and she actually saw in the house, a casket, an open casket, and things like that. And then later when they left, she said, "Daddy, who was in the casket?" And then they looked at her and said, "What casket? There was no casket in there." Right. And within a week or so, the lady that they had visited died. And the next time they went back, there was the casket that she'd seen.
Oh, no.
So I don't know what you call that. I mean,
it's premonition.
You know,
I guess so.
Some kind of premonition, right?
Yeah.
She had a number of stories very similar to that, things that she had seen. So I think she would be open to talking to someone about it. But it's not that she's traumatized and needs counseling, but she would definitely, you know, probably be interested in speaking with somebody.
Well, you know,
to learn more about.
Our friend the psychic Deb Varner just said in the chat, don't think she outgrew it. You know, it may just be lying dormant right now. So she said, don't be so sure she's outgrown it. Sure. And so, you know, of course, you know, Deb's the gal that does our psychic shows. once a month, and she's the one we would ask about that. So she says, don't be so sure. Maybe it's just lying dormant for some reason.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And if you
Well,
want,
Deb, I'll tell you what.
go ahead.
I'll have her. I'll ask her if she'd be interested in talking to you, and if she is, then I'll get back in touch with you guys about it.
Well, I appreciate it, brother, and I really appreciate your stories. Those are awesome.
That was awesome. Yeah.
And if you have any more that you'd like to share, please feel free to call in anytime. We'd love to hear from you.
Well, I will. There's a great story about a haunted restaurant that my family owned back when in Winter Park, Colorado, and I'll call in some other night and I'll share that one with you guys.
Sure.
Excellent, brother. I really appreciate it.
That's awesome.
Thanks a whole bunch for being a part of the show, and you have a great night, brother.
All right. Love the show. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
That's really cool that, he kept an open mind about it, and him and his wife were calm and accepting of it and helped her through. And when he started saying that about, the guy across the way, and those things, instantly premonition popped into my head,
Yeah.
And then he told the story about his mother-in-law
and
how she had that premonition. So, it's just, it may have skipped a generation, or maybe it just laid latent in the mother, but now, that's awesome.
Now, here's the cool thing, and it could be, she could have an incredibly pronounced sense of empathy. Now, on the shows, I talk about, and we've talked about, the fact that, we are, at our core, we are energetic beings. We don't exist just in these meat suits. It's like, we are energy, and we are interconnected with the energy of the cosmos. I mean, it's all a part of us. We are part of it, but, we're isolated in our sense of isolation, and we believe this is us, this little shell. But I firmly believe that when people are, sharing their emotions, their thoughts, that they actually span the cosmos, because all that energy is interconnected. Now, his daughter was able to feel the sadness in that guy, in being across the street. So that's a great demonstration of the fact that, energy does indeed radiate out, and she was a perfect antenna to pick it up and to translate it and understand what that meant.
Right.
So I think that's incredibly powerful and very, very cool. I just thought that was amazing, and I love the ghost story of the miners and stuff.
Yeah, the miners. That's awesome, and that's perfect. It's a perfect example of someone going out and doing something, and somebody noticing that you bring something home. And thankfully it was benign. It was just one or two visions that may have happened. Well, one that it definitely did, but. It's just a perfect example of what we talk about be careful what you bring home, whether it be that antique or that thing you got at the yard sale, or that experience you had. You don't know what's going to follow you home, but also there's not a whole lot you can do until you find out that it's already home.
But that's kind of true, but kind of not. I mean, for people that maybe not be as aware of the potential for that kind of thing, you're right. Well, but now you being attached to the show, about things like, you're making clear statements like, whenever you're in an area like abandoned ghost towns, for instance, as you leave. It may be a good thing to make a statement like, you are not allowed to follow me home. You are not allowed to come and attach to me or my family or any of my stuff. You need to stay here. I am not welcoming you to continue on my journey with me. And, somehow, however you want to say that.
I was, when you were saying that, I'm like, thank you for sharing your space with me.
Yeah, exactly.
Be at peace
gracious.
here.
Perfect
for your time or whatever.
Exactly. So I mean, you don't have to be dicky about it and be like, screw you.
Better not.
Screw you, man. You gotta stay here. I'm going home.
So
I mean,
you
it
end
doesn't
up
have
like
to,
Kenny.
yeah, exactly. So I mean, you can be gracious and kind and gentle with it, but just make a firm statement.
Draw that line, yeah.
Unless you don't mind if they follow you home, but the problem there is you don't know what's following you home.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't know if it's just old miner 49er or.
The guy who killed the miner 49er.
Or the reason miner 49er is a ghost. You just don't know.
Yeah,
so.
no doubt.
But great. I mean, that was amazing share. I really, really appreciate it. And I love it when you guys reach out and become a part of the shows because, it expands the whole dynamic of everything.
Right. Well, and so he just said he just said I only wonder why the singing lady didn't go too.
Right.
Now maybe that's because the miners needed to find a new singing lady, so they followed you home to see if there was a singing lady. Who knows?
Right.
But I mean, the singing lady part was the cool part because he's right, that snow makes everything just so quiet. I mean,
it's just muted. Everything is so muted.
I live near, a railroad crossing, and you hear the trains coming, you hear the whoop whoop, but when it's snowing, it's like 1,000 miles away.
Right.
And it's not that far. It's like half a block away. I don't have any problem with it. That might be why I don't sleep very well at night too. But whatever.
Right.
So I understand. We got that real quiet snow, and for hearing that, is just awesome.
Except when you're walking in it, because when you walk in that stuff, it's like
yeah, exactly.
It's so crunching, it's so loud. You think that everybody in the 50-mile radius is going to hear you.
Yeah, Squatch is going to see you.
Yeah, exactly.
And go home. You know who I saw today?
Yeah. One of the bald ones was out here the other day. So it's hard to know. But it's really cool. But ladies and gentlemen, if you're going to be wandering around places that could potentially be haunted, definitely make your statements, that they're not allowed to follow you. Maybe have sage, maybe whatever, holy water, whatever you want to use. You just anoint yourself and, cleanse any energies from following. And, that way that won't happen. But, it was a benign kind of experience, which was really cool. And honestly, I think that is so cool. The child knew nothing about where they went and yet saw 3 miners.
Right.
Very, very cool.
That's awesome.
That was an excellent
great story.
Yeah, that was excellent. And the beauty of it is, ladies and gentlemen, that's firsthand.
Right.
This is the person it happened to who shared it with us. So those to me are so much more powerful than any 5,000 I could ever find
My
and
cousin's
bring to the
sister's
show.
mother's brother.
Yeah, exactly. Heard from this one guy who said, exactly.
That his sister's brother's husband's cousin.
Right. I mean, you don't have any idea if there's any fact to him at all, but, it's just a journey. This whole paranormal is just a journey. So anyway, let's see what else we got to get into. I did want to go over some of these things. It's in the 40 News. Let's see. Don, did you know there's an art sale going to be happening?
An art sale?
Yeah.
No, I did not.
The Cottingley fairies photographs are to be sold at auction.
Right, you mentioned that.
Right, so they're going to be, and ladies and gentlemen, if you're not familiar with the Cottingley fairies pictures, I believe those are the two girls in England who went out and allegedly took pictures of fairies. Now it's been pretty widely believed that it's successfully been debunked, and the girls cut these fairies out of catalogs or books or whatever, and then hung them on the trees around them, and whether they did or not, I kind of believe they did. I don't believe those are actual fairy photos, but I know there's some people that do, and I'm not trying to state with any certainty what they are, but those are going to be sold. They're going to be auctioned off. So
it'd be kind of cool to have one actually.
It would be, just because that's been such a big part of the wider paranormal verse, the whole idea. And it was really a rekindling of the whole idea in the broad spectrum of people going, oh, fairies are real, because people kind of really re-embraced the whole idea of fairies at the time those came out, because when they came out, they were an international sensation.
Right.
Those pictures were everywhere. And I think Conan Doyle,
Sir
Arthur Conan Doyle.
Right.
He was a big believer in these photos, and he was actually quite involved with the paranormal and
the spiritual movement of the early 20s.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, but these were apparently taken in 1917. So, these images, and I if you're not familiar with them, I guess I could pull it up here and show you guys one of the images that I've got here. Let me put it up on the screen so you can see. But there it is, ladies and gentlemen. That's one of the Cottingley fairies images that was taken. And these are 2 sisters that were at their parents' cottage or whatever and would go out into the woods with a camera, and they came back with these images. So very impressive, very cool. But again, I believe that they're debunked and they're not legitimately fairy pictures, but at least You know, at least it was a part of the paranormal lore for a long time. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. If you're interested in those images, you may have to shell out a few bucks.
Yeah, no
I'm
doubt.
sure they're
not going to be cheap.
No, probably not. Let's see if I can see if there's any idea of what they're going to go to. So the photographs taken in 1917 by 16-year-old Elsie Wright and her 9-year-old cousin, Frances Griffiths. Okay, so they're cousins. In the village of Cottingley near Bingley in Yorkshire, show a variety of purported fairies interacted with the girls. The photos have been widely disregarded as a hoax, albeit one clever enough to fool Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Okay, so they mentioned that.
There you go. Yeah.
You'd swear I read this before. I didn't, honestly.
Right.
I did know
We don't do any prep for the show.
Yeah, not really. No,
No, we don't.
Which is not a. That's not an embellishment. We actually very little.
As a matter of fact, we were almost late for the show.
Well, I think we were a minute late.
Well, you know, they won't.
So, let's see, and not only Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, but the other members of the Theosophical Society.
Right.
So, in 1983, Elsie and Frances confessed that the fairies were created by copying illustrations of dancing girls from Princess Mary's Gifts book, drawing wings on them, and then cutting out the cardboard figures and propping them up with hairpins. Both girls maintained that they had, in fact, what? But it said both girls maintained the fact that they had, in fact, seen fairies despite the hoaxed photos. Okay, so they created the photos, but they had actually seen fairies as well. But let's see. Despite the hoax photos, and Frances insisted that the fifth photo, fairies and their sun bath, was genuine, although Elsie claimed it was another hoax. So, I don't know. I guess there's still a little mystery around that, but very wild.
Well, you know, and we talked about this when I did that little segment about spiritual photos. You know, spirit photography.
Yeah.
You know, and how, you know, what was her Eva C. Very famous French medium, physical medium, had cut out pictures of like magazines at the time of like, I think one was like Frank FDR and one was like, you know, Leopold of Poland and stuff like that, and then drew on it and then pasted it to something else and used it as a prop during her seances. You know, so you know that kind of fits right into that whole thing right there. So
okay, now in the spirit of
she was interesting. Yes, you're right, Diana.
Right. In the spirit of public service announcements, if you should happen to see, and I'll put it up on screen here, if you should happen to see this video, and I'm going to go full screen on this one, it's a video of a flying gargoyle making rounds on social media, was created by a CGI production company. So just in case you should run across this video that depicts this and a flying as well, don't buy into it. It is indeed a hoax, a fake, and it was created by a production company. So just putting it out there, just in the spirit of arming you with information to make informed choices. Sounded rather poetic, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think it's good to, you know, if you become aware of hoaxes, it's really good to put it out there.
Yeah. You know, William in the chat room says, when you really want something to be true, sometimes it overrides your better judgment. That is true.
Yes,
you know,
you're absolutely right.
You believe your own misleading information. That was a nice way of saying it, wasn't it?
Right. No, that was good.
But you know, I mean, yeah, you tell yourself you tell yourself so many things and you repeat the same thing over and over and over again. You're gonna, you know, fall into that. This is how I now believe. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's just one of those things. And Sir Arthur Conan Doyle wasn't the only one who was faked by a lot of these spirit photos from the 1920s, addressing something that was said in the chat.
Yeah.
You know, there were professional photographers who were convinced that they were real and that there really was a spirit standing to the side or over his shoulder. But there was one guy trying to remember his name. I might remember it, but he was so good at switching plates. Yeah, I'm still a little stuffy, Diana. He was so good at switching photo plates so quickly that they didn't even know he was switching the plates.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, okay. Sir Francis Bacon, a man prefers to believe that which he prefers to be true. Very
cool.
good. Yeah, thanks, Duke. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it.
And Julia pointed out that there is a book, The Coming of the Fairies. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, it's a book he wrote, The Coming of the Fairies. Now, I'm assuming that was based around those images then, right?
Probably,
he wrote those as a response to seeing those images and believing them to be fact.
I would believe so.
Yeah. And and it's too bad because you're right though. That's the danger of it. So I mean, I think anybody that's enthusiastic about the paranormal wants the paranormal to be true. Now, I do as well, but I will say that I've had a few paranormal encounters and experiences that I didn't really want to be true, and they were, so I think it goes both ways. That sometimes things happen that you wish weren't true, but they were, and nothing I'm going to go into on the show tonight. But it is curious. But that is a great point. We do have the ability to suspend good judgment in the light of wanting to believe in things. Right. And I think that's something we all probably fall prey to. But I do know that the paranormal is real. But I do think it's really important to look at paranormal stuff. And I think it really might irritate people because whenever I come across images of orbs, for instance, orbs. Right. Orbs are my big thing. So, ladies and gentlemen, people take these photos and they got these little orbs in them. It's like, oh, look at the loved ones surrounding you, and it's really a beautiful thought. And I feel kind of crappy doing it because my objective is never to invalidate someone's belief in something.
Dissuade somebody from believing, yeah.
Well, I don't mind. You know what I mean, though. You don't want to crush their hope. Right. And so that's the part that I struggle with. But at the same time,
you can't let it go.
Well, the reason why for me, Don, is that I think that it's important to represent proofs that stand up to criticism, that stand up to
scientific examination,
or at least critical examination.
Critical examination, okay.
Yeah. So, like for orb photos, knowing about photography, I do photography as well, as I believe several of our listeners do. But lens flares are real common in digital photography, especially. Those sensors are really sensitive, and they pick up lens flares like nobody's business. Right. If it's sprinkling or misting or there's dust in the air, and you're using some kind of flash or light source, it illuminates those things and creates these orbs. Now, I don't believe in most of the people's pictures of orbs. I don't. To me, if you see a piece of metal in there that has a hot spot on it, and by hot spot I mean where the flash hit it and it creates like a white area of the exposure. Right. You know that's going to be throwing lens flares. It's going to throw lens flares back on the sensor. It's just the angle of interaction with the flash of the camera back into the camera itself. Right. But I do think it's important, to get people to look at these things objectively and try to debunk it first. Try to explain it away first. And if you can't, then maybe you really got something, and then it's really powerful. But to start out with, oh, that's a ghost picture. That's definitely a picture.
Just to jump right to that.
Right. And therefore it does go right to what these everybody's saying in the chat room. Like it's the desire to believe overrules the logical thinking or critical thinking.
Right, right.
So it comes down to ethics sometimes. This is William Bennett in the chat. Comes to ethics sometimes when it comes to people's beliefs. If a crying mother interprets orbs as closure to a death, you have to make that that hard call to let them believe it.
Absolutely.
That's a great point.
There are valid times when you just leave it alone.
Right. No, I agree with you wholeheartedly, because for them to have that peace and that beauty, I think is more important than for me to say, hey, that's fake.
Right.
You know, if it gives them hope, if it gives them something to hold on to in the light of a tragedy, then you're right.
Well, depending on the belief, like in this instance that was given, you know, it's a mother, say a mother who lost a child that believes that she saw an orb, you know, that gave her peace because she believes it was from her child. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
However, if that person starts seeing orbs all the time, I think then you need to step in and say, well, this is this and that is that, or at least this is the way I see it. I'm going to give you my truth.
Right.
You know, but don't discount the original thing, because that's debunking her belief. So
right, and you know, and honestly, when I do speak out about it, I do it as gently as I can, because it's not my objective to crush somebody's soul. You know, and unfortunately, there's far too many, you know, people on the internet who have no problem with that. They just don't care.
Yeah, we know.
You know, they'll come across and call you stupid and call you all kinds of really demeaning things, in, you know, just because they're coming from this intellectual high ground or something, and it's really sad.
Attempting to come from
Right, well, you know what I'm saying. That's what their position is. Well, I'm obviously right and you're stupid. You know? It's like, oh, you douche. So, well, whatever. But anyway, yeah, I think that's a beautiful thought, William. Thank you for sharing that, and you're absolutely right. That needs to be considered, because, you know, there's an old friend of mine who passed away said, if you have to make a choice between being right or kind, choose kind every time. Kind. And I that's one of the reasons I close the shows with be good, be kind, be nice, take care of each other, is in homage to him. An homage. Yeah. So, but yeah, very cool. More of this stuff. Now, Don, you had something about the spirit stuff.
Yeah, you know, and let me pull that
The spirit stuff.
Spirit
That was me professionally handing it over to Don.
Yeah, professionally, yeah. So, you know, I was kind of looking for stuff to talk about on the show tonight, and I came across some interesting facts. So, interesting facts, in quotes, air quotes, facts. You may not know about ghosts. Now, me and Brent were talking about a couple of these, and we don't necessarily agree with them. However, let's go ahead and we'll have a conversation about it. Number one, spirits that haunt you want your attention. Yeah. You think? Why would they even bother? You know, they must be bored. I mean, what else can it be?
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely. That's one that's believable. Here's one that talks about one of the stories that Quicko just mentioned. Spirits have absolutely no time of sense. No sense at all. Spirits have absolutely no sense of time. Now, the reason I think this kind of goes back to the story is that, you know, it was in the middle of the night when they woke up her daughter, or when her daughter woke up, or his daughter woke up. Mm-hmm. You know, and so why can't they be kind and, like, do it during the day when we're not trying to sleep, you know? I mean, come on, I have a hard enough time. But yeah, I mean, I could believe they have no sense of time, because that's why they're bothering you in the first place. They don't know. What do you think about that? Do you think they have no sense of time? Oh,
you know, I don't know. The hard part is that, you know, we often talk about residual haunts and intelligent haunts. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I think if it's an intelligent haunt, they're going to realize that things are different. I think they're going to know that, you know, this doesn't look the same. We didn't have that when I was here, kind of stuff. Right. I really don't know that can be factual, because if it's an intelligent haunt, now the curiosity is we don't know what they see.
Yeah.
We don't know how they're seeing the world around them. Maybe they're seeing a representation of life in the way that they knew it. So maybe...
Because it translates into their paradigm.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, you got to wonder, are they seeing the same things we're seeing?
Right.
If they are, now, for instance, you put down a cup. The cup goes flying against a wall and breaks. Well, they saw that. So, I mean, I have to believe that they probably see it in a similar way. And ladies and gentlemen, by seeing, I know they don't have eyes, so they're perceiving the energy in some other way.
Right.
But it appears to be, visual to them, I guess. I don't know. But obviously they don't have physical senses like we do.
Sure.
But, I think if they're intelligent, they can see it. If it's a residual haunt, yeah, I mean, it's just like your VCR doesn't, or your DVD player doesn't know what year it is. Well, yeah, of course not. It just plays what's recorded on it.
Right.
So, yeah. So that was my position on that.
Oh, there you go. Number 3, spirits do not always realize that they're dead. To them, it's like they're stuck in an awful nightmare. Well, we've talked about that before. Do they even realize that they've passed on? We've talked about it with Dan. We've asked about the physical aspects as they manifest themselves. Specifically, are they caught in that time of death? Do they not realize they're dead and they have headless? What was his name? Headless Harry. What is it? Headless Nick. Nearly headless Nick.
Oh, from Harry
walking
Potter?
around with it, but he knows his neck. It's not there. But I mean. Do they realize that, their aspect is frightening, or do they realize that they can change their aspect? Do they know they're dead? Are they, in fact, is it a nightmare for them? Did they die in their sleep? Is that a nightmare? Or was it peacefully in your sleep and you're okay with it, So
right.
Is it a nightmare necessarily, or just seems to be stuck in a dream? Mm-hmm. So spirits don't always realize they're dead. We agree with that for the most part.
Right. No, I think that there's some that do, but there again,
difference between intelligent and residual.
Maybe it's more than that though. Okay, so let's take for instance, I really believe that when you're reading things like this, there's living people and then there's dead people, and that's it. And I think there's a whole spectrum of things that we qualify, as spirits.
Right.
But some of them, and a lot of them, were never human as we understand it. They were something else. And maybe that's just the way they exist all of the time. So to make a generalized statement, so then you got to narrow it down. So, okay, so are the human spirits aware that they're dead, or,
Right.
I believe some of them are, but they really want to tell their story. They really want to share something, and so they stick around.
Right.
In some cases, some of them know they're dead, and they just want to look after those they love. But I think that it's also, there's some of them that are in a really confused state.
Right.
And so I don't think that a blanket statement like that fits all. There's no one size fits all, as Sean says.
Right. Quicko says, by the way, my daughter had not fallen asleep yet, so they didn't wake her up. She was in bed trying to go to sleep when they visited.
Oh, okay.
So it was. Okay. So there you go. But once again, if they're considerate and it's an intelligent haunt, leave me alone.
We did have a caller on the board, and I was gonna interrupt you to answer it, but then they went off. So
call back.
If you called, please call back. We'd love to hear from you and love to hear your thoughts. Don't be shy. Don't be shy.
Diana says, I recently ordered the handbook for the recently deceased so I can put it on the coffee table as decor. Big thumbs up to you, lady.
you gotta send me a link to that, because I want to get one for the studio.
Oh, no doubt. That'd be cool.
great.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd need one for mine too. So yeah, absolutely. That's kind of cool. So let's see here. What was the next point on this thing?
You just covered they don't know they're dead.
Right. Unfortunately, my computer is just killing me tonight. Wah, wah, wah. Okay. Spirits can communicate with us in various ways: in dreams, through subliminal thoughts, automatic writing, via the use of a pendulum, and intuition. Other more scientific ways are through white noise and EVPs. Well, yeah, okay. I guess, spirits can influence dreams. Subliminal thoughts, well, automatic writing is supposedly some kind of a rudimentary possession, I would imagine.
What was the point on this one? I'm sorry.
Spirits can communicate with us in various ways.
Oh, sure.
And then also the more specific, more scientific ways, white noise and EVPs. Well, yeah, okay. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
No problem. That's believable. Here's a good one. Spirits are sometimes mischievous and always curious. You think? You know, we hear about, you know, let's go back to Ghostbusters and Slimer. You know, he was, you know, mischievous and always curious, always popping up in the wrong times. So, you know, and we hear about poltergeists, and that seems to be kind of, well, no, think about spirits in aports and deports, you know, and moving your things around, messing with you, you know. I could certainly see that.
Yeah, sure. I don't disagree with that. Again, I think it depends on you know, it's here's the thing. The only thing different between a living person and a deceased person is that they don't have a body. So there's mischievous people and there's not mischievous people. So you know, I imagine it's the same for, you know, as we're talking about human ghosts.
Yeah, guess what I'll be.
Oh, there you go.
Spirits have a profound sense of smell. They're often attracted to certain scents.
I don't buy that at all. That's a bunch of crap. Now, to say that they're attracted to smells is kind of silly, because to me, they don't have a nose.
Does it smell kind of funny?
Right? Yeah, it sounds freaking funny. I don't know how it smells, but it smells like a bunch
Something
of.
smells funny around here. Well,
smells like something I flushed earlier. But
oh goodness! Exercise them demons out, brother.
But no, I you know, to say that they're attracted to smells would imply that they have the ability to physically smell something, and I don't think that they do. But I think they may perceive the energy of orders. I don't know. You know, it's more semantics, I suppose. But you know, that's such an authoritative statement to make.
Right.
Who the hell knows?
Right.
You know.
Well, and I agree. Well, I think I do agree with your statement, but I think something that Aussie Tiger. I was just thinking as soon as this popped up, Aussie Tiger in the chat said they make smells.
That's true. I agree. That's a good point as well. Very good point. In fact, one of the ways that I know the old lady is around that I believe haunts this house.
You smell roses.
I smell more like a jasmine or lilac smell, but it's like an old perfume, and it's not always in the same place. So it's not just something that's seeping from wood in temperature changes, which can happen, by the way, ladies and gentlemen.
Right.
But it's just in various places. In fact, yesterday I walked through a pocket of it, I guess is the best way to put it.
It's a paranormal pocket.
But is that creating a smell, or is it creating an energy that will trigger a smell in our senses? I don't know.
Well, you know, that's all energy though. I mean, because you know, it's.
I guess it's just semantics.
Well,
you're right.
You got to remember your smell, your sense. You know, your smell, your snooter is the one that brings back the heaviest memories.
I ain't got no snooter.
Yeah, I can't smell anything, man.
Yeah.
But you know, I mean, they say that smell is the strongest sense. You know, it's the one that brings memories. You know, you smell that scent, it reminds you of your grandma. You know, or you smell that scent, and it reminds you of the best meal you ever had. You know, so you know, those are really.
Then maybe I got fairies, D, because D says the scent thing can also be fairies if it's floral. Well, that could be then.
Oh yeah, he likes floral fairies.
I like floral fairies.
Sure, apparently you do.
Okay.
You got a couple of floral fairies floating around. Now, if they just talk to us.
I don't even know what that means. Spirit Vox, Paranormal Dundee, how you doing? Good to see you. Thanks for coming in. Good to see you. Always nice to meet new people.
Spirits are more active at night. Some people think this is due to the lack of electronic disturbance and that they are able to produce more energy when not having to compete with various electric or electronic devices.
It could be.
I don't believe that, because even though you turn your TV off, there's still electricity to it. It's just not creating its own disturbance. Okay, so if you think of it as a disturbance, okay, yeah, that could be viable.
So here's the other side of that, though, is like, okay, so most people experience ghosts at night, but I believe that they're probably active all the time. It's just that we don't notice them until it's all quiet and dark, and
because we have our filters on.
Yeah, our distractions are at a minimum in the night, and so that's when we're the most receptive to picking up on that kind of activity, is my opinion. But we do have a caller, so let's get to this one and see what's going on. So this is area code 503. You are on the air.
Is that me?
That's you all day long. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah. Thanks for that. I tried to send you an email because I might butcher my encounter experience, but I'll give it a shot.
Well, we appreciate that.
Yeah. I appreciate you guys. I love the show.
Oh, thank you, brother. I appreciate that too.
Yeah. So about 2011, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
Me and a couple of my buddies were hanging out on a Friday night after school, and we were bored, and we wanted to like go be rebellious and go hang out at nighttime at like 1 or 2 in the morning and just run around the night. But we kind of wanted to look for like ghosts and stuff like that.
Okay.
And there was, I live in Oregon, up kind of by Portland.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice.
And
Okay.
there was an old abandoned insane asylum.
Ooh.
And we were going to go there, but a couple of our buddies went there the previous weekend and got arrested for trespassing, so we figured we better not do that.
Good call.
So, yeah, probably. So we ended up going to the Lafayette Cemetery outside of Lafayette. It's a Masonic cemetery.
Oh, okay.
And I have no idea what that means for what makes it different than a normal cemetery. I don't know.
Okay.
But I looked up a story about it, which is why we found out about it. And the rumor goes that back a couple years before Oregon was officially a state, so I think like 1854 or 1855, some lady had a son who was accused of witchcraft, and they killed her son, burned him or hanged him. I don't know what they did to witches back then.
Right.
But he died, and she was obviously super distraught about it. And she started to raise hell about it, and they accused her of being a witch. So they were like, okay, we're going to kill you too.
Oh.
So before they did, this is just a rumor.
Sure.
I don't know if it's true or not.
Mm-hmm.
But before they killed her, she said that she was going to curse the town of Lafayette, and before the curse was lifted, it's going to burn to the ground 3 times.
Right.
And since then, it's burned to the ground twice.
Oh, okay.
Which is pretty crazy.
Right.
So in that same background story of the cemetery, they say that this lady haunts the cemetery, and she chases out and leaves scratches on the backs of people that are like doubting her, disrespecting her.
Okay.
Because people usually go there at night because of that story, which is what we did.
Yeah.
So anyways, we go there, and it's like out in the middle of this nothing town. There's farm fields all around it. So the cemetery is up on a hill, and the hill has like a bunch of trees and thick vegetation. And on the very top of the hill is the cemetery. But around that hill, there's nothing but farmland for miles.
Oh, okay.
So we parked off the side of the road, and we start walking up. I passed the gate. My buddies, I was getting my flashlight out of the car or something, so my buddies started walking ahead of me. And they were probably 50 to 70 yards ahead of me. And I walked past the threshold of the gate, and as soon as I did, I had the most overwhelming, intense feeling like something was watching me. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. It was just so intense.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like I don't know how to explain it.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt that, and I instantly stopped in my tracks, and I was like, "Whoa, that's really creepy." And I was thinking to myself in my head that this was probably that spirit, because I'd been thinking about it for a couple hours before we got there.
Wow.
And I just kept chanting in my head, like, no disrespect. I'm not here for malintentions. I'm just here to check things out. And I was curious about the spirit of this girl I heard about, and I wanted to see the really old graves because there's headstones in there from like 1850, which was really cool.
Yeah.
And I just kept repeating that in my head over and over, like, no disrespect, no disrespect. I'm not here to mess with you. and the gaze that I felt just continued, and it grew. It didn't diminish at all. It just got more and more intense, and my body was like getting chills, and I could just feel this presence. And where I could pinpoint where I thought it was coming from, like if I couldn't see it, but I knew that there was something there looking at me. And it was like surrounded by blackberry bushes, like whatever it was had to have been standing in the middle of like 8-foot, 10-foot tall blackberry bushes.
Wow.
About 30 yards off the trail from me.
Oh, okay.
And so I repeated that in my head for about a minute and a half, 2 minutes. And then I tried to go catch up with my buddies, and I took about 10 steps, and I felt this energy bum rush me in a second, like was right up in my face.
Oof.
But I couldn't see him. I could just feel it. Like I have goosebumps now talking about it. And this is what, 7 years later? It was insane. And I just kept repeating in my head, like, oh my God, like, no disrespect. I'm not here to mess with you. No disrespect. Right. And I felt it circle me, one full circle. And then it just disappeared. The feeling just lifted off of me in a second. I never felt anything the rest of the night. And I went there 2 times after that, and I never felt anything.
Wow.
Wow.
Nice.
So it was like an evaluation or something, huh?
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. I thought that she was just like, if she was going to chase me out of there or not, honestly.
Right.
She was like, if this guy's full of shit, sorry for the language, then I'm going to mess with him.
Sure.
I'm going to get him out of here.
Wow.
It was exactly how I felt.
Yeah, that's what came to me too. Is like you were being checked out.
Yeah,
you were being, for lack of a better word, kind of like scanned. Because I think that spirits are telepathic, right? So they can just be around you and get your whole story in a real quick period of time. So she probably was just checking out your energy and your intentions, and once she knew that you weren't there to really cause problems or anything, then she probably like, okay.
Wow.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Those are absolutely crazy stories. That's awesome.
Right.
Yeah, so that was pretty much my only ghost story. I have a couple quick Bigfoot ones if you guys want to hear that.
Oh my God, yes.
You're talking to Mr. Bigfoot.
You came to the right place, sir. We'll take them all.
Okay, cool. So, I want to say 5 or 6 years ago, I've been hunting and fishing and all that stuff since I could walk. My dad would take me.
That's how these stories start.
And yeah. So yeah, about 5 or 6 years ago, we were bow hunting for elk out in the Trask unit of Oregon.
Okay.
If you want to look it up on a map, it was probably 30 miles outside of Carlton.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And we were hunting this one day in this, it's a really steep canyon, and at the bottom of it and up on the other side of the road, like if you imagine the V of the canyon, down the canyon and up the other side, there's no access to it whatsoever. We know that because we hunt this area religiously.
Okay.
And okay, so we were hunting that one day, and we got really close to getting a shot at an elk, but we couldn't. So, but we knew there was a bunch of elk in there. We were hearing them all day. So we missed that opportunity. They stormed off, and we went to bed that night, and we're like, okay, we're going to get them tomorrow. Like, no big deal. We know that they're there. They've been here for like 4 days.
Okay.
So we go to bed, and at about 11:30 at night, we hear like Bobo's howling.
Oh,
okay.
You guys have heard
the Ohio howl? Yeah.
Yeah. We heard that, and it was extremely loud, and we knew that it was coming out from the bottom of this canyon, just because it was either there or it was on the other side. But either way, it wasn't a person. And why would they be out in the middle of the woods at almost midnight doing that? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Like you would have had to hike an exhausting hike to do that.
Yeah.
So we couldn't rule that out. So that happened, and we woke up the next morning, and me and my dad were like, that was insane. And the guy that was hunting with us was one of my dad's buddies. He was like, guys, I'm leaving. I'm not sticking around here. and so we were like, okay, whatever. See you later, dude. And we go out and we hunt, and we couldn't find a sign of anything. Literally nothing. No birds, nothing. There was nothing in the area.
Wow.
So it was really bizarre. So that's that one.
That's really intense.
And then
do you think that,
yeah,
that it probably ended up herding out those elk too, huh? Pushing them out.
I'm sure it did, yeah.
Yeah.
Because we knew they were there.
Yeah, protecting its food source.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's possible.
Mm-hmm.
There was another group of people that were hunting in there, but they left the day before that happened.
Oh,
I'm not sure why.
Maybe they bumped into him too.
Wow.
That's intense.
Maybe.
So yeah, we had a second one too.
Yeah, I got a second and a third one.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, second and third one.
Perfect.
So the second one was some years after that. We called that spot Squatch Hole we call it that from now on.
There you go.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So this one was in a different location, probably 10 miles from that spot. And we were bear hunting this time with rifles. And we were camped on a little pond off of the side of a dirt road. And we hunted that day, didn't get anything, didn't see anything. And we went to the camp and we made a fire and we're hanging out around the fire talking about Bigfoot and stuff like that. And we were like, hey, let's do some like wood knocks and stuff like that and do some Ohio howls and see what happens, see if we can experience anything. So we did that for about 30 minutes straight, just like not straight. We would do it for like a couple minutes and then we'd stop for a couple minutes and listen. And in this pond, there was frogs and insects going off, and I think I heard birds too, which was weird because it was dark, but maybe I was wrong. Anyways, we did all our tree knocking and our yelling and decided to just give up and hang out by the fire for a little bit, tell a couple more stories, and then go to bed. So we're laying down, going to bed. I'm in the back of my truck. My dad's in his tent on the cot, and our buddy that was with us was in his rig, back of his Suburban, I think. And we're laying there. It's quiet. We can hear the frogs, and we can hear the birds, or not birds, insects. The frogs, the insects, and I swear I heard birds. I could be wrong, though.
Okay.
And we hear a tree knock. Opposite the road on the other side of the pond, we hear 3 loud tree knocks. And the frogs stop, the insects stop, and I was just like frozen. My eyes shot open. I was like, wow, that is crazy. And then for about 2 minutes, the forest is just completely silent. The frogs aren't going, the insects aren't going. And then after about 2 or 3 minutes, the frogs and the insects start back up. And there's noise in the forest again. And then about 5 minutes after that, on the complete opposite side of from where that one was of us, so we're like in the middle by the pond. The first set of tree knocks goes off on the opposite side of the pond from us, and then in a straight line on the very opposite side of us again from where it came from was another set of tree knocks, and the pond noises died and the forest was just silent. And at that point I was like freaking out because that one was closer to us than the first set. And I yell at our buddy Jimmy that was with us. I was like, Jimmy, do you hear that? And he was like, yeah, dude, what was that? And I was like, I think it's a Bigfoot. and he was like freaking out. He was like, shut up, dude. No, it wasn't. Or something like that. And he was obviously very upset about the situation. And I just thought it was so cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always been like super interested with that stuff, but
sure.
Anyways, yeah, that was pretty much it. That was pretty much that experience. So I just thought it was insane.
Now, what I find the most interesting about those is that For me, I've experienced that when the forest goes just dead.
Yeah.
And the part that I can't get my head around is that, I mean, even freaking crickets, which are like they might, they got a brain about the size of a booger, and for some reason they know to shut the hell up too. And I don't understand what's going on in the atmosphere that everything just shuts down, and that like they're saying the forest is holding its breath, and that's exactly what it feels like, and it's so intense.
Yeah, I've always wondered if it was like a frequency thing.
Right. You're probably right. That's a good point, that maybe they're, they're emitting some kind of frequency, or maybe it's the infrasound or something, but everything just shuts down. Now, Duke did say, Duke Sullivan, a host of World Bigfoot Radio, is in the chat room as well. And he said, Bigfoot will mimic birds, trees.
They do that too.
They mimic trees by their size, but birds, that they will mimic birds. So if you're hearing birds at night, it was probably them.
That's a good point.
Right.
And I love Duke, and I love listening to his show.
Mm-hmm.
But the sound of bird that I was hearing was like very small. I've always heard that. I don't know. So this is a good question for Duke.
Yeah.
I've always heard that when they mimic something, it's a very poor impression of it. But the bird sounds that I was hearing was like very small and very high pitched. Like it sounded just like a bird, but I don't know. Well, I could be wrong.
I think they can whistle, though. I mean, like the legends I've heard is that they can whistle. So perhaps they were whistling it.
Yeah, that's totally possible.
Cool. So we'll let Duke respond in the chat room.
That's for sure.
What's that? I'm sorry.
I said it shook Jimmy's socks off. That's for sure.
I think, it's got to be really, really intense to be out there in the dark when that happens. But so what was your third one, brother?
Yeah, sorry. So the third one was this hunting season, actually. So what was that? November?
Okay.
I want to say. Mm-hmm. And we were hunting, and I missed a shot on a really nice bull bow hunting. And we knew there was elk in the area, and so it started to get dark, and a herd of elk that we were trying to find finally started to come down into the area that we were sitting, because we knew that they were in that area because we saw them there the day before. Mm-hmm. So we were hoping that they would come back down in there, like towards dark, and they did. And just before we could start to see them, they broke off, like just shot out of there.
Right.
Stampede of elk running away from us. And then we were like, okay, that's weird, because we weren't moving. They shouldn't have done that. So we're like, whatever, let's just call it a night. We went to bed, woke up the next day, went back to that same spot, and we were sitting there. And it was probably 10 o'clock. It was light out, and it was a thick area, but you could see.
Okay.
You would be able to see an elk in your field of view. Mm-hmm. So we're sitting there, and we hear what sounds like really heavy. Something's walking through the brush, like very heavily.
Okay.
And we couldn't see anything, but it sounded like it was right there. Like we should have been able to see it. It was very bizarre. We would hear like something pushing the brush aside and stepping on big sticks and breaking them. It sounded just like an elk was walking in there. Uh-huh. And it sounded like it was about 30 yards away, but we could not see a thing. And my dad was higher up above me, so he had a better view of the area, and he didn't see anything. But what was weird about that was that we never heard it leave. We heard it come down about 20 or 30 yards away from us, and we sat there for probably 30 minutes and didn't hear anything. And then we get up to like slowly walk towards that area thinking that we would jump one up, and there was nothing there, and we never heard a thing.
Oh, man.
It was very bizarre. I can't say that was Bigfoot. That's just something that I just remembered that I thought was really weird. But that night, when we were laying in our tent, I fell asleep listening to Sasquatch Chronicles. Me and my dad do that when we're out hunting. I've listened to 500 episodes of that show. I love that show.
Yeah, it's a great show.
But I fell asleep. It is. Wes is awesome.
He is.
I fell asleep, and my dad fell asleep, and he woke up at about 3 a.m, and he said he heard what sounded like a really big person 20 yards away from the tent whistle 3 times super fast, like toot, 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 3 times super fast, super loud. And he said it freaked him out so much he instantly jumped up and grabbed his gun and just sat on his cot with his gun, just listening.
Oh, wow.
Just waiting.
That is so intense.
And he was very freaked out about it. When we woke up the next morning, he was like, "Did you hear that whistling last night?" And I was like, "No, I was out like a light. I didn't hear anything." And he was like, "Dude, I swear it sounded like a 300, 400-pound dude whistle super loud right at us." And where he said it came from was on another super steep slope of very thick vegetation.
Mm-hmm.
No one would be able to walk up and down that thing.
Right.
Wow.
And if they came down the road, because we were at the end of the road, if they would have came down that road, we would have heard them. Or he would have. He wasn't sleeping.
Right. Well,
But
obviously not.
That is intense. That's so intense, but very, very cool. Duke did answer, by the way.
Oregon.
Let me just read
Yeah.
Duke's
What do you
answer. He said, "No, they can do excellent call impressions, and they can also whistle, and it doesn't need to be loud if they are near the one they are signaling to, which is with the mimic call." So, yeah,
That makes perfect sense then.
yeah, exactly. So, yeah, brother. I mean, that's pretty amazing. Now, I mean, most people get maybe one shot at being in the presence of a Bigfoot, but I guess since you're out there and you're pursuing the game,
Right.
you're probably in their supermarket, so to speak. I mean, you're right in the meat aisle.
Like dinner and a show.
Exactly. So it doesn't surprise me that you keep bumping into them, because it sounds like you guys are going after the same deals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
Wow.
That is intense, brother. I really appreciate you sharing all these with us, and I hope you'll keep coming around and sharing anything more that happens or has happened.
Absolutely, I will if I can think of anything, or if I come across anything, I'll definitely let you guys know. I try to listen to the live show every night, and if I have time during the day, I listen to some of the videos that you guys got. But yeah, excellent. I love your show, and thanks for letting me come on and share it.
Well, thank you, brother. Now, who are you in the chat? Just so I'll be able to put a name to the face or to the sound.
Travis.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Travis.
Okay, Travis. Yeah. Okay.
Outstanding, Travis. Cool. Thank you a bunch, and yeah, it's a real pleasure to get a chance to talk to you, brother.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, guys. Thanks again.
Have a good one, bud.
Have a good night. Thanks.
Yeah, Oregon. He's talking about Oregon. He's talking about the west side of Oregon. West Central Oregon, and that's prime Bigfoot country. It's in that corridor.
Right. That's really intense. Yeah. I think that's amazing. And what a collection of stories, though. I mean, too. He's had so many encounters, and that's awesome.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's on his way to having a face-to-face pretty soon. I mean, really, because I think they really know when we're out there. I mean, that's their living room. That's their, that's their home. And it's pretty...
Could you imagine walking into their living room and they just look at you like, what happened? Who are you? Why are you in my house?
Yeah, exactly.
Don't ask questions. Here's breakfast.
Yeah, well.
I'm here for breakfast.
Yeah, well, as Bear would say, that you get stump broke.
Oh, good God. Oh, my goodness. And you blame me for the one coming off the tracks.
Well, yeah, I don't know. But, man, that is really cool. Some great calls tonight, guys. Thank you so much. It really, really makes the shows, for me personally, it's like huge when you guys call in and share what you've experienced. That brings so much dimension to the shows. Yep. So very, very cool. So we've got about, half hour left?
About a half hour, yeah.
So the night is marching away. So if anybody else has anything else to share, let's definitely do it. What Travis says, I don't know if I'd be able to handle one face to face. I don't know if anybody can, I mean, it's one thing to we've seen big people before. Everybody's seen big people. Like if you ever walking by a basketball guy, I mean, you feel like you're tiny, but then you add another 2 or 3 feet onto it and 600 pounds of muscle,
right?
And all of a sudden you're just in a whole different world of comprehension. You know, we are tiny, and these things are so huge. They're graceful, they're quick, they're intelligent, they're cunning. You know, I mean, it would rock the socks off of anybody.
Right.
I don't think anybody could ever get used to seeing something like that.
You know, we do have this one guy that comes through work every now and then, and I swear to God, he's got to be 7 foot tall.
Oh, really?
He's got to be a good 400 pounds.
Wow.
Guy's huge. And you literally, when you look at him, you're looking at his chest.
Yeah.
You know, you're actually just below, you know.
He's like, hey, my eyes are up here.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and it's like, holy crap, you are huge, my man.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, okay, I'm respectably 5'10".
Yeah.
You know, and it's like you're looking up at a 7 foot guy. He's like literally a foot and a half taller than you, and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
and then you add another 2 feet on top of that, and a whole lot more.
And
I
a
mean,
whole
the
lot
5 and
girth.
6 feet wide.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so powerful, so big,
Wow.
and usually they're not happy to see us. You know.
Yeah.
So-
Julia says, "Shut up. You feel tiny."
Yeah, well, Julia, you know, you might actually be able to duck and cover and get away.
Yeah.
We're too big for that.
Well, we hear that Bigfoot likes little people, or little
Oh,
little
that's
people,
right.
So you're okay.
Julia,
It's
you're,
us medium-sized people they don't like.
you're our magical gnome. Julia's the portal gnome.
Oh my!
I hope you don't mind that. I just think it's adorable.
She's such a sweetie.
Yeah, she is. She's wonderful. We have the greatest mods in the chat verse anywhere.
The Chatterverse.
Diana and Julia and Lady Death and you as well,
Oh,
Don.
well,
I
thank
know you
you.
do a good
Oh,
job.
thank
So we try to have a wonderful chat experience as well. And I wish we could take credit for it, but it's you guys out there and the mods that are keeping it fantastic. It's just something that you guys have all created. So thank you guys for doing
Absolutely. Oh, I was going to say, you said something earlier about the Paraverse, and it didn't quite come out Paraverse, but I thought that was pretty apropos, you know, because this is our Paraverse.
Yeah.
You know, this is us. This is you, us, the show. It's our Paraverse.
The listeners.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
We are family.
Oh, God.
Oh, come on, Don. It's karaoke night.
He's got all of his sisters in him.
with me.
Okay.
I got all my brothers and sisters with me. Come on.
Oh, now you're rewriting the song. I see.
Well, yeah. I didn't say I was going to give it.
I dare you to tell me who sang that song.
That's is that Sister Sledge or the Pointer Sisters?
Yes, no, it was Sister Sledge.
Okay.
Very good, very good.
Thank you. I know my music. I was in a cover band for a lot of
I was
years.
in a
We
cover
did not
band.
cover that song, by the way.
No, but he covered Rain and Men by Gloria
No, we
Gaynor.
didn't. We did.
Rain and Men.
The other guy did. He used to cover that Concrete Blonde song, Joey.
Oh, yeah.
That was like,
I love Concrete Blonde. Dude.
yeah, it was great music,
That was
but
good
it just sounded really weird to hear a guy singing that. It was
So,
just like-
so if Gloria Gaynor sang Rain and Men, would another dimension would Bodies Hit the Floor be the opposite side of that?
when the bodies hit the floor. Could be. That's a whole another kind of paranormal,
Yeah,
Don.
there you go. There you go.
But you did bring up multiple dimensions, which is
Yes,
always
exactly.
cool. So what else do we got here? What else do you got? You didn't make it through your list, did you?
I made it nowhere near the end of my list.
Well, please continue. Hey,
Hey,
Renee, good to see you. Great to see you tonight.
and Ken finally popped in. Hi, Ken.
Ken, we were talking about
About
you a
time
while
you
ago.
got here.
You're late.
He had-
You get the sweep after the show, so
he had
that's what the late guy gets.
Yeah, he had a little incident on the way home.
Uh-oh, what happened?
Oh, nothing. He just spilled his beer.
Poor guy.
Bad, Ken. bad. Number 8. Spirits can and often do manifest. Orbs, streaks of light, mist, dark shadows, shadows within shadows, and blurs within the air are most common. Full body apparitions are always possible, but not likely. Okay, yeah. We often talk about orbs and mists and shadows.
Yep.
Shadows within shadows. I think that would fall more into creeping dark or creeping. What
Yeah.
is creeping shadows? Shadow. What does Dan say?
I thought he said creeping dark. I thought you said it right.
Yeah, the dirty darkness, creeping darkness, or something
Yeah,
like that. I don't think that. I think that's more ominous than an apparition or a spirit.
It is. It's got to be horribly unnerving. And ladies and gentlemen, what Don's referring to is the Dan Pruitt, one of our paranormal investigators that comes on the show as a guest several times. He's investigated in many places, and he talks about being in a pitch black room and only just little, maybe a little LED device light, a little red light or something, but otherwise it's pitch black. And he said that the all of a sudden the air will change, and suddenly it becomes blacker than black.
Right.
And he said that he was able to record this not only with his eyes but with his not that he could record his vision, that didn't come out right at all, but he was able to record it on a light meter when the room actually went darker.
Got darker.
Than dark. And he said it was this chilling presence.
Wow.
And was there for a few minutes, and then boom, was gone, and the light came back up, and he said he was able to document that. So it's an actual phenomena that is measurable. And it's not just a trick of the light, and not just a trick of the eyes, that if you ever notice things go darker than dark, you could very well be in the presence of something else.
Something else.
I don't know.
From elsewhere.
All I can say is Dan said it was a creepy feeling.
Yeah.
He said it was a real ominous presence, so it didn't feel like a good thing. Now, I do believe that these entities give off an energy of their own. Like, it's not just us that vibrates that energy out.
Right.
That we perceive them on a very rudimentary level, like a primal level. And if you're ever in the presence of evil, you'll know you're in the presence of evil. It'll just permeate, and you'll just, it's different than just fear.
Right.
You're just in the presence of something so dark and so hateful that you won't be able to miss it. I mean, it'll be there. So.
Right. So also orbs, streaks of light. But the full body apparition. Yeah, that's one. It says full body apparitions are always possible, but not likely.
Sure.
You don't see a whole lot of head to toe apparitions. You see usually like the torso up, or the head and the arms, the bust.
The what?
Yeah, that wasn't going to come out right. I just stopped myself cold on that one. Don actually did it. He stopped himself.
Woo, he self-censored, ladies and gentlemen.
Woo-hoo. But
Don's got a different kind of orbs in his mind.
Shut up. Those aren't orbs, they're globes.
Okay, depends on the orbs. Is all I'm saying.
I like globes. Yeah, I totally screwed that one up. Oh. I like globes, not flat earth. Oh no! Off the tracks.
No!
Why are you so broken?
Why are you broken? I've asked that for years. I've been asking that for years.
2 years now. By the way, we just passed our 2-year anniversary 2 days ago. 2 days ago. So there you go. Yeah, 2 years together with this guy over here.
Over here.
Yeah. But we don't hear a whole lot of full body manifestations.
William says, are they orbs or flat discs? I don't know. Frisbees.
I don't like pancakes either.
Oh,
no, I don't. I don't like pancakes. IHOP sucks.
Oh. What was the paranormal point to all of this now?
That they manifest themselves in lots of different ways.
Yes, they do.
And that full body apparitions are not likely, which
agreed. They're not. They're very rare. Okay, I don't disagree with that point.
All right then.
Next. Quickly.
Most ghostly disturbances are actually residue or residual hauntings, events that play themselves out over and over again, often without the spirit having in control over it. Now, if it's a residual haunting, is it actually a spirit that's experiencing it, or is it something that the house is remembering, or the the hallway recorded, that whole stone tape kind of thing, is it in fact a spirit, or is it something that's manifesting because of something else?
Mm-hmm. It's hard to know. I mean, yeah, that's a good point. Is there an awareness that does trigger it? I don't know. Maybe, perhaps. Again, these are really definitive statements
Right.
that I don't think can ever be made. But I don't think they're necessarily wrong, but they're not completely right either. I don't know.
Right.
We just don't know. It's the paranormal. We don't know. We don't have the ability to know these things yet.
Yeah, there's no experts.
Right, exactly. There's no experts, ladies and gentlemen. There's just enthusiasts. There's people that are researching and doing their best to try to get a hold of this stuff.
And
but
then there's us.
Then there's us, and we just we're more anomalous than the paranormal. But what was the next one?
Well, I'm going to skip a couple. I'm going to go to spirits retain their personalities.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think that in some cases, though, that the experience of being a spirit, if they're alone and if they're confused, I think that it can descend into madness, though, for them. I think there are insane spirits around just because they're so
been around
confused
for so long.
right? Yeah, with no. I mean, we look at what the hell's that movie with Tom Hanks where he loves that ball? Castaway. So, I mean, look at his situation, and that was it's a dramatization, of course, but I don't think that that's real far from the way that it would work. If you were lost on an island, your mental capacity would degrade over time, and when you were found, you wouldn't be the same person if it was a long enough period of time.
Right.
And I think that the same holds true for spirits. If they're just marooned in this state and don't have the spiritual awareness of other things or other help, or if they're just lost, then I think their state would decay as well.
Right. Yeah, I'd imagine. Not all ghosts are trapped.
Wilson.
Some
Jellyfish says, Wilson.
Not all ghosts are trapped. Some choose to stay within the earthly realm.
I agree to that.
Now, if you choose to stay, if you're trapped, I can understand the degradation of the mental capacities. But what if you decide to stay? Do you get to retain your sanity?
I think that for most of the so here's the thing, right? So if they choose to stay because they're afraid, like I believe that some spirits are afraid of the whole idea of judgment,
right?
That they don't want to face the idea that they might go to hell, so they're like, no, hell with that, I'm sticking around here. At least I know this. I don't think they're in a confused state. They're doing it very knowingly, and
Orbs.
Yeah, orbs, yeah. And then there are those that stay to look after people, or because this was a happy place for them, and if that's where they're peaceful, I don't think then it will descend into a madness. I'm talking about the ones that are like, they're already confused. They don't really know they're dead. They don't know they're alive. They just don't know,
right.
and they just are going through their own process, and that's what degrades into insanity.
Oh, okay.
So
they're not retaining all of their they're not retaining all of their personality. They're only getting glimpses. It's degrading over time, something like that.
You mean the confused spirit thing? Yeah. I think they may know what they were, or what their situation was, but it changed up so abruptly that they can't.
Oh, gotcha.
They can't process this new paradigm, and so it just degrades.
Right.
Is my belief. That's
sure. Even spirits of animals can haunt.
Yeah, there's many people that claim pets are visiting them. There's ghost cats. There's one haunting where there was a house where a doctor owned it, and he used to experiment on monkeys, doing medical experiments in the basement.
Huh.
And there's allegedly these monkeys still haunting the place.
Wow.
Yep.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, the last one I'm going to close with on this is certain locations are vortexes or portals where ghosts or spirits can transport themselves from one realm to another.
I wonder about that. We've certainly heard, from D and stuff that there are portals and stuff, but I wonder if a spirit is crossed, do they need a portal at that point anymore, or can they just portal themselves, and if they want to come back and visit and then go back again? Maybe for certain states of spirits or certain types of spirits, they need portals, but I don't know. It seems to be lower vibrational things that need those portals. But yeah, I mean, it's, you know.
Well, you know, you've mentioned before, often mentioned before, that you believe that sometimes transient ghosts, transient spirits, they just come and go. You know, so maybe that's portaling, you know.
Right.
You know, we've had a few that supposedly came through here every now and then, you know, and because it's not a chronic thing, it's a happenstance thing here in the studio, you know, that something will walk by me, or that one time I saw the shadow in my screen, you know, things like that. But, you know, those are, you know, so, but it's not something that happens all the time. So maybe they can use these portals to just kind of, you know, come and open the door and poke their head in and go, I'm standing behind Dawn. Kind of like that damn clown up
with
there.
all their friends going, hey guys, watch this.
Watch this.
And then your mic dies or something stupid. Yeah.
All the hair on my body stands up. I swear some of that's just charge.
Yeah, well.
Because we get so into this sometimes, it's like, you know, you get that sensation, that charge sensation.
Right. So with shadow people, with the true shadow people, they're believed to be associated with portals, and they you know, they're seem to be a lower vibrational energy. Some people believe they're very negative. Some people believe they're utilitarian, and they serve a purpose, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I think I wonder though. I don't know how the portal thing works. If they all need portals to move around, or if only certain types of spiritual entities require that to traverse the realms. Right, I don't know. Right. It's one of those things that probably nobody can really answer, but there's probably a lot of ideas out there.
Right, yeah.
So.
Absolutely.
Great discussion, though.
Yeah,
Is that the whole of your list?
Well, that's all. We only have a few minutes left, so I thought I might give you a chance to talk a little more.
Oh, no, I talk all the time. I'm happy if you want to talk.
So did I ever tell you why I don't like clowns?
No, I don't think I ever heard the story. What's going on with that?
Don't you know they taste funny?
Yeah.
You knew that was coming. Thanks for entertaining me on that one. I appreciate that.
Hold on while I get my canned joke.
Which is exactly what he said earlier when I told him.
I know.
So, so, you know, I mean, there's just so many things that, you know, statements that are made, and there's so many ideas that are hatched and
D says they smell funny too.
Yeah, well, okay, well, there you go.
That's actually funny.
Well, you know what's funny is Jeffrey Dahmer said, "Never eat a person with tattoos. It's horrible meat."
Did he actually say that?
He said that. Yeah. He said,
God!
I don't like people with tattoos. So if you ever want to avoid cannibals, get a tattoo.
I got a lot of scar tissue. Does that work in my favor?
I just think
tough.
It'd be more like gristle, yeah.
Yeah, I'd be tough.
He's kind of grizzly.
I wouldn't be any good, I'm sure.
Anyhow, but no, you know, I mean, but those are always great questions. But as you said, there's no experts to really make definitive statements.
Yeah.
You know, that's like we were talking to Lisa Martin one time, and she said that she believes that using UV burns them.
Yeah, she got that.
Or you know,
ultraviolet light, ladies and gentlemen. What she explained was that she was doing research with ultraviolet light, and she was getting EVPs like it burns.
Right.
And so she usually stops. She doesn't really use UV light anymore.
She uses infrared.
She uses infrared and full spectrum, but not UV light anymore for investigating. And I thought that was really profound. I'd never heard that before, but you know, that stands to reason, I guess. Right. I mean, it's another light spectrum, but it is the more excited light spectrum, right? So that's on the high end. UV is on the high end, and IR is on the low. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe that higher frequency is more harmful, and maybe, ladies and gentlemen, if that's the case, maybe that correlates to why there's more spiritual activity at night.
Oh,
you know, without that sun generating the UV light, perhaps they need the night in order to roam freely without the pain of the sun. I don't know, just throwing it out there, but it is a correlation, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a very viable explanation.
Yeah, just came to me.
Dee's talking about sweet pork.
We're going into the recipe realm, are we?
Long pork.
D, are we not entertaining you? Are you not entertained?
Do I amuse you?
Do I amuse you? We're going to talk about recipes, are we, huh? What is this, the cooking channel? Forget about it.
Forget about it, you freaking mooks.
Go see Gordon Ramsay, huh? Quit busting my
He'll call
chops.
you a dirty donkey.
Dirty donkey. He calls people all kinds of things, man.
I'm
That
a
guy's-
donkey sandwich.
That guy is so mean.
know.
Yeah, but you can tell he's an awesome guy, but he just shreds people. It's
Yeah,
like
don't
he-
mess with his.
he really feels the need to really break someone in half before he helps them, glues them back together.
He uses flour paste, his own recipe.
Yeah,
Here you go.
a little mache, puts them
yeah,
right back
there's
together, and
there's a
has them
Band-Aid
cooking
you'll be
good
fine.
sandwiches before they know it.
I'm no longer a donkey sandwich. I'm an ass.
Jesus, Don. An ass? Did you just say an ass sandwich? Oh my God. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, again, this is the portal. If you're new to the show, welcome, and
Please come back.
please give us another shot.
You know, a Sphinx Silink says UV light destroys DNA, doesn't it?
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, so
It does. It destroys microorganisms as well, and it's often used in air purification.
That's true.
That's
yeah,
right.
That's
So
right.
good
yeah.
point.
I wonder how much that. Do ghosts have DNA?
Well,
Do
I don't know
spirits
that
have DNA? I mean, but
they're made of something. I
but
don't know.
you know, I mean, that's actually a good point because maybe it's not necessarily DNA, but maybe.
But it is an energetic presence.
It affects their energy. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So it might, because it's a higher vibration, maybe it really screws with their
There you go.
energetic matrix. I don't know. It's a very interesting point, though. I think we might have stumbled onto something pretty profound here tonight.
Sometimes it happens.
Yeah, it does. So Rob oh man, I can't even pronounce this. Rob
Delacovis.
Delacovis says, "Now go get your shine box."
Yeah.
Amen.
Okay. So anyhow, wow.
DNA is a solid object. Yeah, it is, but we're not really sure that ghosts have DNA. But it is interesting that ultraviolet light does actually cause problems. Now, here's another thing, ladies and gentlemen, that I'd like to keep you, if you're looking into paranormal investigating. Additionally, I've heard off the record warnings about people that have been involved in investigating for a long time, and they didn't want to make this statement publicly, but they said, look, I've known investigators, and we investigated all the time, and he said, and when the UV stuff really hit, these people started using it and working with it, and he said, I've suddenly had 2 investigator friends of mine that passed away from cancer.
Oh wow.
And so he is kind of correlating the possibility that that intense UV spectrum light continuously may have generated something to that effect. So just as fair warning, I'm not making a medical claim here. I'm really not. But it was
a
spoken,
correlation he made.
right, and that's maybe a cautionary tale. So be careful with the UV stuff. If you're going to use it, point it away from you. Don't.
Well, think about tanning booze.
Well, right, yeah. I mean, with skin cancer and
Yeah.
all that stuff, right? Very good point. But yeah, vampires don't like it either. Duke says. Yeah, that's true. They don't. That's what Blade said anyway.
But William says vampires don't care about UV. It's a Hollywood invention.
Very interesting. Well, Will, you'll have to share us some of this lore of vampires because I'd like to hear
definitely
what you got going on. That was a pretty profound statement. Now, you'll have to call in and share what you got on vampires because that's a tough one. I've tried to do vampire shows in the past, and
We only come up with psychic vampire stuff.
psychic vampires, and then the counterculture of people doing a version of goth
Right.
and gluing teeth on and calling themselves vampires and drinking blood, which
yeah.
which is to me just a counterculture. That's not vampirism. That has nothing to do with it. So, if you have knowledge of vampires, I would, or the true legendary vampire stuff, I'd love to hear about it. So, but I guess that's probably our
Yeah.
show, huh, Don?
Yeah, that's looking like it. Ken says he just watched Goodfellas last week, so there you go.
It's a good movie.
It's a good movie.
It is really, really well done. Yeah, for sure. But Duke says vampires don't die from steaks either. Silver kills them.
Well, you know what? I eat enough steaks. I might die.
Don.
Oh, you mean not?
You're
eating
more
steaks.
wolf than vampire though, with that growing beard of yours.
Mr. Silvermane.
Silvermane. Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
All right,
All right.
so guys, that's gonna do it for us tonight. Don, anything in closing?
No, just thank you guys again. We love you so much. We do. We've grown so much just within the last week, and new faces everywhere. We appreciate you, new people. We certainly appreciate the people that have been with us for, as long as they have. And like I said, this week marks our 2-year anniversary, my 2-year anniversary with this guy sitting to my left, who's actually over here, which is funny because he's actually over here.
Ooh, that was weird. It was like your arm split and went through a portal.
But, oh, yeah, because of the screen, yeah.
Do it again and watch my screen. No, other side.
No, that one.
Oh,
see, because if I go this way.
Yeah, then it's broken off, see?
No, it's going. Oh. Well, see, that's funny because.
No, point the other way. Point towards me. There you go.
This one. Yeah,
Yeah.
This is the one because.
Look at your arm. It's like, yeah.
Anyhow.
It's freaky. I'm easily entertained, ladies and gentlemen.
Simple minds. And here we are playing with the videos. So, no, I mean, seriously, though, it's wonderful. It's awesome. Thank you so much. Like, share, subscribe, hit that bell. teesprings.com/store/paranormal-portal for your gear. I changed a few things up. We'll get some other things in there. Brent was talking about doing some slogan cups later, mugs.
Oh, yeah. I got
so
some ideas.
We'll work on that. We're going to get stuff out there. Thanks, Duke, for being in here. Thanks to our callers. Thanks to Travis and Quico. Thank you very much. And Julia, Diana, you guys were awesome in the chat tonight. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, everybody, we love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day and laugh as much as you can. I'll be back tomorrow for the bedtime stories, and Don will be rejoining me on Saturday for another bucket full of paranormal mayhem. So
that may be the name of the show.
That might be the title. I don't know
Bucket full of chum.
Chum in the mayhem. All right, guys. Love you all. We'll talk to you soon.
Good night.
See ya.
Woo!